ask her about the companies in their state.
Because you actually have threatened action against any company or facility.
There is a simple way to completely transform your physique, like, say, Hugh Jackman did for the Wolverine movie. Hugh isn't the only one to get shredded seemingly overnight. Chris Pratt went
for that matter, that allows the president inside without a mask. So will this Ford plant, for example, face any consequences?
Well, I think that we're going to have a very serious conversation with Ford in the event that they permitted the president to be in publicly enclosed places in violation of the order. They knew exactly what the order was. And if they permitted anyone, even the president of the United States, to defy that order, I think it has serious health consequences potentially to their workers.
Let me lay it out to you. The main reason why they're talking about President Trump not wearing a mask is because they want people to think about President Trump come November and say President Trump was not there for the people. He's trying to put everyone at risk. That's what all this is about. Bring up something, make up something so that you do not support the sitting president of the United States. They don't want you to support the president that's doing everything for the American people. Seriously, he's the sitting president of the United States. He has more information. He's more privy to the information than all of us about what is going on. And if there's a real threat, any threat, which the threat that he's addressing is a real threat, and he is addressing it. But when he takes the measures, come on, he's the sitting president of the United States. He's the one flying the plane that we're all on right now. Look, the Democrats don't care. They're going to do everything they can to take him out. But listen to this last clip that I have with the Attorney General of Michigan talking about President Trump and how it comes to voting in November.
Why wouldn't you wear a mask? What's the big deal? Why not wear a mask? His explanation, and I want your reaction to this, Attorney General. He said, I didn't want to, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, I didn't want to give the media the pleasure, he used the word pleasure, of seeing me wear a mask. What's your reaction to that?
Well, it's my reaction to many of the things that we hear Donald Trump say, and that's that he is a ridiculous person, and I am ashamed to have him be president of the United States of America. And I hope that the voters of Michigan will remember this back in when November comes, that he didn't care enough about their safety, he didn't care about their welfare, he didn't respect them enough.
This is Democrats. This the Democratic Party. This the Democratic Party. Republicans, they got shit doing.
In conclusion, if you decide to wear a mask, I'm not going to hold it against you. If you decide to be in your vehicle, in your room, in your house, by yourself, whatever it is, and you want to wear a mask, I am not going to hold it against you. It's your prerogative. But if I'm outside walking down the street, if I go to the grocery store and I'm not close to anyone and I don't have on a mask, don't attack me. I've already had one person want to attack me because I'm out in an open area because I don't have on a mask. Here in the state of Texas, not every single place is forcing people to wear a mask. It's a recommendation, but you don't have to. That's the freedoms that we still have in this country. You don't have to. Many people do. Many people are not. That's the freedoms we have still in the state of Texas. But I had someone that really wanted to harm me because I was not wearing a mask. That's how serious this thing is getting. And when you have the liberal media like these CNN and MSNBC putting out information like this to stir up the pot to get people angry, is not doing anything to help the situation. Why can't they just stick with our freedoms? If you want to wear the mask, then wear the mask. If you don't want to wear the mask, don't wear the mask. If you're wearing the mask, aren't you protected? That's the question here. Leave me a comment, leave me a comment, leave me a comment, hit the like button and share this video. Go to uniteamericafirst.com and support me today. uniteamericafirst.com. And oh yeah, get over it. Trump is your president.
So certain types of exercise is better for men than others. Did you know that actually endurance exercise, for example, running, cycling, swimming, that sort of stuff, long distance exercise is actually really, really.
But he wants to sue you guys because you were just trying to have a conversation and he was the one that got violent with you. It's tape. Do they not see what took place? I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean,
and you don't even show the part where, so we ended up going.
Yeah, you don't see your phone on there here to knock your phone down. I don't have that. Yeah, I don't have that video clip of that part.
I'll send you the link on it where actually we have video of me walking up the stairs, knocking one time and standing there waiting, and then his reaction to immediately coming out and attacking us. If you can play that, I mean, it's incredible. If you haven't seen it, and then for him to go on, he was actually on the Sunday morning show, local Sunday morning show this weekend, saying, perpetuating the lie, doubling down on the lie, saying that we tried to break into his house. The video that we put out wasn't the beginning, that it was, we had gone before and we were threatening him. And I mean, just completely making this stuff up out of thin air. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But the saddest part is, I've always wondered how Democrats and the politicians get away with lying. And it's easy when the media does the job for you. The media has come out and treaded water for him and not asked any questions. And when the evidence...
Hold on. Listen.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to begin by detailing the historic private-public partnership effort launched by the Trump administration to combat the coronavirus. As both a businessman and as president, you'll all remember then candidate Donald Trump, now President Donald Trump, being adamant about bringing manufacturing jobs back to America. President Obama and the Democrats had given up on manufacturing with President Obama's erroneously prediction that Trump would need a magic wand in order to bring back American jobs. Not so. The reality is President Trump revived manufacturing in this country, and he tore up disastrous trade deals that hemorrhaged American jobs, like NAFTA and like the plan that was in work, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Instead, he put in place better trade deals to bring back American jobs and to bring back American manufacturing. And in the battle against the invisible enemy, President Trump took action to shore up our domestic supply chains in order to deliver necessary PPE and other medical equipment to the states.
Do you hear it?
Speaker Pelosi
You
and
gotta hear it.
are currently promoting
Nasty
a
Pelosi.
$3 trillion liberal wish list among a
Nasty
litany of Democrat
Pelosi.
priorities immaterial to the coronavirus crisis are embedded in this, and one would require the president to appoint a, quote, medical supplies response coordinator who would, quote, serve as the point of contact for the healthcare system, supply chain officials, and the states on medical supplies. I'm happy to report this individual already exists. This bill ignores reality because the medical supplies official is in existence. He's been working on this since March to deliver to date over more than 1 billion, I should say, pieces of PPE to countries and hospitals across the country. Since March 29th, Rear Admiral John Plavchek, Vice Director for Logistics for the Joint Chiefs, has been on the job as the head of FEMA's Supply Chain Stabilization Task Force. This partnership with the private sector and under the leadership of President Trump, FEMA directed the greatest mobilization of the private sector since World War II. Rear Admiral Plavchek and FEMA quickly realized the power of the private sector in addressing the coronavirus, recognizing that the 6 largest private sector medical distributors would the ability to source, procure, manufacture, and deliver as many as 1 billion pieces of PPE in a single week. That is extraordinary volume by our private sector. And at the direction of President Trump, Rear Admiral Plavchek and FEMA were able to harness this power. Every day at 9 a.m., Rear Admiral Plavchek's team huddles with these 6 large private sector medical distributors, and together they review data compiled by Dr.
He gave Dr. Fauci enough rope in the CDC, in the WHO, He got him enough rope to hang they fucking stuff. And that's what y'all gonna do for the rest of your life. You're gonna hang from a fucking tree, bitch. Now this is a real fact.
Priorities for public hospitals, VA and DoD facilities, private hospitals, nursing homes, acute care clinics, first responders, and labs. In just 2.5 weeks, Rear Admiral Polovchek and his team were able to combine data streams, utilize supply chain visualization tools from DoD,
This is what America need to hear.
This system is
about
now
their country.
to generate reports for
We
governors
is
showing
taking
what
back
the state
over.
receives
We
from
is
federal
taking back
government,
over.
Commercial partners,
Trump
all the way down
is
to
without.
the hospital level, as I noted. And thanks to
I'm a
President Trump
liberal.
and his administration, governors now
I'm
have
a liberal.
visibility as
Fuck
to where
Trump.
their supplies are sent
Fuck the
and what they're
Democrat.
received.
I'm a
And
liberal.
from March 1st through May 10th, this public-private partnership has led to the delivery, and these are extraordinary numbers, of over 113 million N95 respirator masks, nearly 500 million surgical masks, nearly 18 million face shields, and over 12 billion gloves. That is a lot of PPE, and we thank our private sector partners for engaging in this effort with us. Also, I just wanted to note that earlier today, the president held an hour-long call with thousands of Hispanic community, business, and faith leaders across the country. He recognized the many contributions of the Hispanic community to our country and addressed important issues like how to reopen their businesses and build the greatest economy in history again. And finally, before I take questions, I just wanted to note
Trump is not a politician. He is a businessman that's gonna take our economy to the big level. You dumb ass, you dumbasses. Y'all don't really fucking know him. Because y'all scared. Y'all running. Every time you see a snake. I got snake ass friends I don't like, bitch. Try me again.
What does the president believe is illegal about the Secretary of State of Michigan sending out absentee ballot applications, and what federal funding is he considering withholding from the state of Michigan as a result?
So, I won't get into exactly what the funding considerations are. I would note that his tweets were meant to alert Secretary Mnuchin and Mr. Vogt about head of OMB about his concerns with trillions of dollars going to these states and his noted concerns about a lot of fraud that is potentially at play when you have mass mail-in voting. So with regard to the illegality and legality of it, that's a question for the campaign as to their voting and ballot practices. But I would just note that his tweet was meant to alert OMB. He wanted to be very careful as we send trillions of dollars to states that we keep this important point in mind and we ensure that there's fairness in our voting system and absolute accuracy.
If you take a testosterone supplement to raise your testosterone levels, nothing's going to happen. Why? Because there's another hormone in your body that completely destroys testosterone. And there's 4 common foods that you're probably eating right now that are doing that exact thing, causing you to feel low energy and fatigue, low libido, increased fat gain. You can't put on any muscle. And so all these things are just happening from eating foods that you could easily cut out of your diet. And when I did this, because I tried it for 30 days, my results have gone through the roof. And so I made a free video presentation to show you what these 4 foods are, and also to show you 4 foods that you can eat instead of these so that you can really start feeling good and looking a lot better. So if you want to check it out, hit that link below while you still can.
Did you know that billionaire Warren Buffett made 99% of his current wealth after his 50th birthday? That is amazing. At an age when many are giving up hope, Buffett was just getting started on the vast fortune he controls today. Think of what that wealth could bring. It could mean putting you and your family through school, enjoying a better house, and yes, traveling the world and seeing all these great sights with all the time you need to enjoy them. How did Buffett do it? Well, he achieved this incredible.
How did Buffett do it?
To buy stocks.
Buffett went with
people think that older Americans
he went with the Gates plan. This is how Warren Buffett did it. He went with the Gates plan. And Gates said the only way we're going to get rid of those niggers, those Negroes,
detailing
me and you,
favorite stocks to buy.
we gotta cover up the sun.
This report
I don't
calls
think
5
he gonna
stocks
find
for
a
building
scientist
wealth after
bright
50.
enough
And
to
because
match
we're
the
convinced
sun.
that it's
Cause
never
the
too
sun
late
get
to start
hot,
to build your
bitch.
fortune in
You
the
don't
stock
want to
market.
go up there.
You can grab a
Look
copy
at
of
your
5
stupid
stocks
ass
for building
now.
wealth after 50.
Gates, look at your stupid ass now, Gates.
Simply enter your
Your
email
ass
and we'll
is so
send you a
dumb.
copy of 5 stocks for
To
building
where,
wealth
bitch,
after 50
the sun is
directly to
hotter
your inbox.
than your
This
white
free
cracker
report is brought to you by
wrinkly up
Knowledge
ass.
Stock Advisor, the top-rated investing newsletter in the world for 2017, according to Wall Street
You got
Journal.
a hold on your ass.
Been helping
You got a hold on your ass
investors
and you don't want
since
nobody to expose it.
2002. Though not
Because guess what?
everything is done
You're a
as
lizard
well as
people.
these,
You're a
the full list of winners
shapeshifter
is much
just like the rest of
longer.
them.
But here's the bottom.
I'm not a
Over the
shapeshifter.
last 16
I
months,
am me.
Motley
I
Fool
am me,
Stock Advisor's
and this is who
average
I'm going to
stock
be
pick has
till the day I
returned
die.
334%.
And guess what?
And that's more
Can't
than what
nobody
Upland
tell me
returned
no
the
better.
S&P 500
Can't nobody
over
tell
that
me
time
no
period.
fucking different.
And that's
Can't
why I
nobody
know
tell
you'll
me
want
no-
to grab a copy
no easy
of
way.
5 stocks for
'Cause the
building
easy
wealth
way
after 50
is to sell
while it's
out
still available
us.
for free. Don't
I ain't
risk
gonna sell
missing
out.
and enjoying
Y'all
your
gonna
world
love
travels
this video.
or
Y'all gonna
anything
tape
else
it.
you want.
Y'all gonna share it.
Enter your
Y'all
email
gonna
and
love
we'll
it.
send you
And
a
I'm gonna
copy
get
of
more hits
5 stocks
than a
for
little
building
bit.
wealth after
And I'm
50
telling you,
directly to your inbox.
y'all gonna be writing me in my email account, bitch. Bitch, I need you to come out with more crazy ass videos like this. Because you know why? Because half of y'all is faggots. Y'all faggots that's under the cover
The president
faggots.
himself has voted just 2 months ago about a mail-in ballot. There are several Republican states that are also doing these mail-in applications for ballots. And so I'm confused. What is it that he thinks is illegal that's happening in Michigan? He doesn't.
Hold on. There you go. UnitedFirstState.com. Y'all know shit.
It's not just that Donald Trump is saying and doing racist things. He's also implementing policies that are hurting and impacting negatively communities of color.
I don't think Donald Trump is doing an awful lot to appeal to African American voters.
All of the policy that he's put forward has been anti-people of color.
Now, we hear those lines all the time, but here are the facts. Since President Trump took office, Black unemployment has hit an historic low and currently sits at about 6.7%. And by the way, he's not satisfied with that. He wants it a lot lower, but still pretty great. The number of African Americans employed is up more than 4%. And the most stunning of all, African American wages, this is my favorite, are up more than 9%. Here now in a truly special debate. I'm so happy about this. Candace Owens, Brexit movement founder and conservative commentator, and Cornel West, professor of philosophy at Harvard University and professor emeritus at Princeton.
Idiot.
Dr. West, I also want to tell you, I really appreciate your coming on the show. You're an old style liberal. I don't mean old and old. I mean, but you like debate and conversation, and I think that's just awesome. So thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. And I want to begin with a simple question, Dr. West. Are the president's policies, let's just focus now on his economic policies, are they helping the African-American community in your view?
Now, I think that the statistics certainly look good through a narrow lens. So I give him credit in that regard. But we have to keep in mind that on the one hand, you still have grotesque wealth inequality. You have job insecurity. So many people who are working more than one job. We know many people who have withdrawn from the labor force are not counted at all. But I think the problem is, though, my dear sister, is that the president has a language that creates an atmosphere that is so xenophobic against Black folk, Mexicans, Muslims. He rarely wants to stay in contact with their humanity. So when you look at the statistics, that's one thing. But when you create an atmosphere and an ambience of xenophobia, it reinforces the polarization, and therefore many black folk wouldn't even be able to connect the statistics that look good with the language, the atmosphere that feels so bad. And that cold-hearted, mean-spiritedness is something that cuts very, very deep in the spirit of people.
Have you met him? Have you met him, Dr. West? Ever met the president?
No, I've never had a conversation with my right wing brother. I mean, you know, I've called him a gangster and a proto-fascist in terms of separation of power. But he's a human being. He's a human being, and I could, you know.
I'm just saying this because look.
Why are you cutting her? Why are you cutting him off?
I just like the fact that you're out there and you're advocating. I have no problem with it, and I wouldn't call you mean-spirited. We disagree, but I think if you actually were with the president, you might find that you could accomplish a lot together and you could do a lot together. I really believe that. He'll work with pretty much anybody. And that's what I found.
How the fuck do you know that? You don't know that.
But there is this tonality issue that
that's what your right wrinkly ass up.
They always go back to
Charlottesville.
They always go back
your
to
white wrinkly ass. Your white raggedy Andy Nandy.
Those three things probably, for some, just wipe out.
Your white cracker bitch.
Well, look, I think the president is doing.
That's what I'm gonna say. Your white cracker bitch.
Because he tells the truth and he doesn't pander to Black America. He hasn't offered us hot sauce. He's offered us jobs. That makes many people uncomfortable because they're from an era where race hustling is a business. They're used to telling Black Americans that they're victims, writing books about victimhood, and that is no longer selling in America.
Depend
and
on
I just want to
no
comment
black
back
man,
on saying that
but
xenophobia
myself.
is something that Black Americans are afraid of. Xenophobia means that you have a
depend on myself,
Mr. West,
and
foreigners.
depend
Black
on
Americans are not foreigners in
everything
this country.
I got for me.
Of the American dream. We've earned a
I
piece
got
of the
going
American
on
dream, and we're getting
for me
tired
is
people
for
telling
me,
us that we are somehow
not for
separate
the next
of it.
race.
I mean, that's really what I have to say. We're
Come on in.
tremendous under this.
Come on in.
presidency.
Come on
There was
in,
no
you
candidate
devil.
that's offering anything
No,
on the
it's
left
called
to counter what Trump has
I
offered.
have
They're just offering
everything
more rhetoric,
for
more
me.
fear-mongering, and unfortunately, time is up on this narrative. We are ready to move on and embrace our futures.
Oh, Dr.
Well,
West, go ahead.
If I can come straight, I mean, first, xenophobia in the generic sense means the fear of other. And black folk have been othered, enslaved, Jim Crow, Jane Crow, and so forth. So if you want to, the narrow understanding is just foreigner, but it's the other. Those who have been otherized, those who have been marginalized in this sense. But think of you call my dear sister Maxine Waters low IQ.
Everything is written for a reason.
That is a fact.
On
She took
every
IQ exam to
nationality,
find out that Maxine
on
Waters
every
had a very low
statement.
IQ.
I get.
I
get positive messages, and I can get fucked
when he calls brother
but it depends on what you into.
You see, this kind of
language. Look, listen, listen.
No, I'm talking about the president. I'm not talking about you, my sister. I'm talking about the president. The president called Brother Colin a son of a bitch.
Okay, but what I
think that's a fact.
Yeah, I think the nasty language. It's on both sides. I mean, it's not. If they call him a gangster, a traitor. I mean, so we can play that game all night long. But I do want to. I want to get this out. I want to get to this. The prevailing wisdom, I think Dr. West, highlighted this, is that race relations have deteriorated almost under this president. That's the thought. And that Obama was the great racial healer. Yet, in a new study by a pair of sociologists.
Yeah. Right. What I'm about to do, I'm about to put it on. Right. I own this channel. I need people. Shit, fuck it. If I gotta put my Cash App card out there, you know what I mean, and you want me to go hard, fuck it. I take $1, $2. I don't care. That shit ain't nothing to me. You know what I mean? It's all money that's gonna build up in the end. And guess how we gonna get rich again? In the end, with these Cash Apps. Bitch, I'm telling you some real shit. I'm giving you free game. Free game ain't never hurt nobody.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, hold on. Damn. I got some shit on here I want people to understand this shit. This shit gonna come. This shit gonna come. You know why? Because I'm me. How about this Listen. Everybody who with the left, everybody who with the right, y'all need to listen to this. Real shit, real deep shit, real deep thoughts. This my boy Will. Will Johnson. He always been a close friend. You know, I never met the man personally, but the way he talk, he a real cool dude. Be around. You know what I mean? But I done talked to him personally on the phone. And I done cussed him out. I had come to because we back out on that, you know what I mean? But we called each other out. We called each other the fuck out. Like, it was nothing else to say. But that's how real politics get down. See, politics live in your veins. And if you know how to self-destruct yourself from that vein, you is the most magnetic power of all forces. You say it. Say it.
Study by a pair of sociologists at UPenn, this is not some conservative outlet, they found that, quote, anti-Black prejudice declined by a statistically insignificant degree between 2012 and 2016. But then after 2016, it took a sharp dive. There was also a general fall in anti-Hispanic prejudice.
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever thought about your blood flow? Redwood uses just a few simple, completely natural ingredients to increase your body's nitric oxide production. This in turn lowers your blood pressure and increases the rate of blood flow in your body. This results in several different positive effects, including increased metabolism, heightened memory and concentration, and a fortified immune system. What Redwood does is actually very simple. Redwood optimizes your blood flow. I've got a quick story for you that will tell you exactly how I was here, and then here, and now I'm here. My name is Chris, and when I was 19 years old, I was diagnosed with a pituitary tumor that almost killed me. Long story short, the tumor was blocking my hormone production. I was put on antidepressants and synthetic tea for treatment. I gained over 70 pounds. Everything in my life, from grades to girls, fell apart. I was personally experiencing how big a role hormones can play in one's life. Lucky for me, I was at
This too. So, Professor West, to what do you attribute these findings? So, prejudice is on the downswing, not on the upswing, at least in these first few years of Trump.
Well, based on this particular study, I'd have to examine how they gather their evidence and so forth. But anti-Jewish attacks, anti-Muslim attacks, anti-Mexican attacks, and not just anti-Black attacks, but also the police departments, the militarizing of the police departments, the withdrawal of the investigations when police do, in fact, shoot fellow citizens, whatever color they are, but disproportionately chocolate,
but that was happening
Black
under Obama.
And brown.
Right, that was happening under Obama, like
That's
Ferguson.
true. That's true.
Stuff, right?
That's true.
It's not
I'm just talking about continuities.
That's
yeah,
I'm talking about continuities.
Right. I do want to share this. This was a moment that I think, again, going back to what Candace has worked on and spoken about, and what Dr. West, I think you two could actually be happy about together. It happened at the White House. I think it was last month, and it was an event commemorating the First Step Act. Let's watch.
And I really thank you for signing that bill. When y'all pass this, I could have fell through the floor.
I'm an example of a woman who has been given a second chance in life.
And it's an experience that I never forget.
2 months ago, I was in a prison cell, and I'm in the White House. That's continue to make America great again.
Now, Dr. West, I mean, I don't think they were feeling xenophobia or mean-spiritedness. I think they actually found a president who was willing to work with people who really didn't even like him and didn't think he was probably going to accomplish much. And it got almost no coverage. I think we played it on our show, maybe a few other places, but didn't get any coverage. What's your reaction to seeing that?
No, I think that's a very important attempt to zero in on this vicious policy in the last 40 years of mass incarceration, punitive attitudes toward those engaged in various kinds of crimes. I've been blessed to teach in prisons for 37 years, a raw way to step program of the District of Norfolk. It's something that has an impact on the ground, and I'd give the president credit for that. It's not as if he has nothing to offer. It's just that the dominant orientation is still tied to what I'm critical of both parties. Because identity politics for me is milquetoast neoliberal politics that don't talk about corporate power, don't talk about poverty, don't talk about militarism. But the Republicans still strike me as so cold-hearted, mean-spirited, and they're still tied to corporate power and Wall Street and won't hit poverty head on. But when it comes to prison, when it comes to statistics, I give the president credit for that. But it's still small relative to what I'm looking for. I see it in neither both parties other than Brother Bernie Sanders, but that's another dialogue.
You're right. You're right.
But I have to go back to this idea of race relations under Obama, which I almost fell out of my chair in the CNN story that came out in October of 2016. They got worse. 54% of Americans said they got worse. Only 16% said they got better. This was at the end of the Obama administration. So as Cornel West said, you had Ferguson, you had Freddie Gray in Baltimore. You
they
had all
get
this
in
stuff
there
bursting
running
out
and will
on the streets of America with the
because they know Trump gonna win again. Trump is gonna win again.
Right. Look, at that
Trump
point, I was on the
is
left.
going to be our next president for another 4 years, no matter how you put it. He is going to make America great once again. But no, you dumb motherfuckers, steady up in y'all high horse, sitting on your high horse. Your high horse ain't higher than mine, bitch. You better know your high horse before you come judge me. Judge me for how the fuck you judge me. You can't judge me off of bullshit.
I want to. Do you still do work in
bullshit? Do not live in bullshit house.
Can I come with you? Can I
And
come
look,
with you on one
I'm
of
gonna
your?
tell you like this now.
Anytime you like.
You ever lie on me again, ever do something that I hate, Mother Nature, I'm going to come for your ass 1,000 miles running. Don't play with me, Mother Nature.
Of mine. I think she's wrong most of the time. I fight for her right to be wrong in that regard, but I would wish that she would have moved. Absolutely, but I would have wished that you would have moved further to the left, because when you have a Black Lives Movement under a black president, it's not going to be a matter of then moving to the right.
Socialism has already been tried in our community. It's been tried via welfare policies, and has completely crippled the Black community. It has completely crippled the Black family via the welfare policies. You know that. So I had to creep all the way to the right. And I have to tell
socialism
you,
is
I'm happy
power
here.
sharing. Socialism is not giving
Black
and becoming
go
people
conservative.
dependent
Black
on
conservatives
programs.
never
It's
go
power
liberal.
sharing.
Mr. West, I appreciate your time, but Black liberals go conservative, but Black conservatives never go liberal. And there's a reason for that.
And I would just add that Wall Street.
Black people are complicated. Black people are complicated. We go back and forth, but I wish we had more black leftists.
Bitch, I'd rather vote for Trump, bitch. I'd rather vote for Trump, bitch. Not your cracker ass. Not your cracker ass. I'd rather vote for Trump.
Chanel.
Thank you, Kaylee. I'd like to switch gears asking about President Obama. We had we had an interesting article from Joel Pollak this morning. And I would like to ask you if the president has considered pardoning President Obama for illegally wiretapping on Trump Towers, illegally spying on U.S. citizens, and other potential crimes out there. Has he considered that?
So I have not spoken to the president about that, but who I did speak to about President Obama and unmasking Michael Flynn were the men and women in this room. I haven't spoken to him on that specific point, have spoken to him about the matter generally. And I laid out a series of questions that any good journalist would want to answer about why people were unmasked and all sorts of questions. And I just wanted to follow up with you guys on that. Did anyone take it upon themselves to pose any questions about Michael Flynn and unmasking the President Obama spokesperson? Oh, not a single journalist has posed that question. Okay.
Flynn's name wasn't
So
matched.
I would like
Kelly-
to lay out a series of questions, and perhaps if I write them out in a slide format, maybe we're visual learners and you guys will follow up with journalistic curiosity. So number one, why did the Obama administration use opposition research funded by a political organization and filled with foreign dirt to surveil members of the Trump campaign? Number two, why was Lieutenant General Michael Flynn unmasked? Not by the intel community entirely, but by Obama's chief of staff, by the former Vice President Joe Biden, by Susan Rice, by the Treasury Secretary. I mean, this is extraordinary. And, you know, if it were political appointees in the Trump administration, I can guarantee you I'd have questions in my inbox right now, but apparently Obama's spokesperson does not. Why was Flynn's identity leaked in a criminal act? It is a criminal act to leak the identity of Michael Flynn to the press, but it happened. Where are the questions to Obama's spokesperson? Because my team would be running around this building should this have happened under the Trump administration. Why did the DOJ, Sally Yates, learn about the unmasking from President Obama? So much for going by the book, as Susan Rice said 3 times. Thou doth protest too much, Susan Rice. And then finally, question number 5. Why did James Clapper, John Brennan, Samantha Power, and Susan Rice privately admit under oath they had no evidence of collusion while saying the opposite publicly? It's a long weekend. You guys have 3 days to follow up on those questions, and I certainly hope next time I ask, some hands go up, because Obama's spokesperson should be asked those questions, because President Trump's spokespeople certainly would be.
Podcast, because we heard Alan Dershowitz share that what Ron DeSantis had to say, not only about his state, but how the mainstream media.
So any insinuation otherwise is just typical partisan narrative trying to be spun. And part of the reason is that because you got a lot of people in your profession who waxed poetically for weeks and weeks about how Florida was going to be just like New York. Wait 2 weeks, Florida's going to be next. Just like Italy, wait 2 weeks. Well, hell, we're 8 weeks away from that, and it hasn't happened. Not only do we have a lower death rate, well, we have way lower deaths generally. We have a lower death rate than the Acela Corridor, D.C., everyone up there. We have a lower death rate than the Midwest, Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio. But even in our region, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida has the lower death rate. And I was the #1 landing spot from tens of thousands of people leaving the #1 hot zone in the world to come to my state. So we've succeeded, and I think that people just don't want to recognize it because it challenges their narrative, it challenges their assumption. So they got to try to find a boogeyman. Maybe it's that there are black helicopters circling the Department of Health. If you believe that, I got a bridge in Brooklyn I'd like to sell you. Last question.
If you believe the nonsense, if you still believe the nonsense that comes out of the mainstream media, they did the exact same thing to my friend, Jerry Falwell Jr. He decided to reopen his university, give his students an opportunity to get back into their dorms, practice their own social distancing, take care of their own bodies, be dependent on themselves for not contracting something. And the mainstream media blasted him up one side and down the other, literally lying, saying that it was a hot spot. Liberty University is a hot spot now for coronavirus, and the fears are just through the roof. The students are going crazy. The sky is falling. That's basically what they were saying about Jerry Falwell Jr., and none of it took place. Nothing happened. Students went back to school. They finished out their year. They got to study from the comforts of the dorms that they paid money for. Harvard didn't do that. Most of the other Ivy League schools did not do that. The mainstream media targeted Jerry Falwell Jr., Liberty University, just like they did Ron DeSantis, because they're conservatives, because they support the president. Are you waking up yet? Don't you wish, if you don't right now, and please, if you haven't already hit share, please hit share right now. On Facebook, please hit share. Hopefully one of your family members or friends hears this section right here, and it wakes them up to understand. If you don't understand right now, and if you're in a Democrat-controlled state, if you don't understand that it is politics, it is purely political. Why could Governor Ron DeSantis, make the decisions that he made to open up his state for his community, for his constituents, for his people to go back to work, and nothing's happening? Meanwhile, you're in a Democrat-controlled state and you're still on lockdown. Why is that? It's politics. They're willing to do anything, I truly believe, and hurt anybody if they feel like it'll hurt this president. It is purely political, and it's BS. And hopefully you're waking up to that, because we, the people, hold the power to take these people out of office. We got to get up, get out, and vote. And no, we don't want mail-in ballots. That's what they're pushing, because there's a lot of fraud. Oh, not if you listen to the mainstream media or Democrats. No, there's no fraud in mail-in voting whatsoever. It just doesn't happen. Well, I've got some news for you right now. It not only does, but it is happening. Has happened, did happen, is happening, and will happen again, specifically with mail-in voting. This comes out of Virginia City. Well, this is actually, I'm going to go over here right here. Democrats in Pennsylvania. Here's some voting fraud for you. Democrats in Pennsylvania pay election judge to stuff the ballot box. Another way some voter fraud happens. An election judge has admitted that he was paid by political consultants to add votes for a particular Democrat candidate in 2014, 15, and 16. He was paid increments of $300 to $5,000. This is just another case of voter fraud that Democrats say is not there. Former judge elections Dominic DeMuro, 73, has been charged by the DOJ with conspiracy to deprive Philadelphia voters of their civil rights by fraudulently stuffing the ballot boxes and a violation of the Travel Act. He has pled guilty. Oh, don't tell me there's no voter fraud out there. Don't tell me that. No, it really does. I think it does. It happens. I've got another one I'll bring up later, but I want to get into this one. I believe this is actually a telltale, friends. This kind of dovetails better than my last article off of what I was just talking about, where the American people are waking up to who is in power and who is issuing these draconian measures. We're just going to call them targeted. We'll call them anti-American measures. Anti-growth, anti-family, anti-business, anti-American measures. That's what they're doing. Well, this Virginia city that voted for Obama twice tosses Democrats out of office. Yes, that's what we need to see more of. 110%. Virginia City that voted for Obama twice tosses Democrats out on their butts. Yeah, you know what I'm thinking. Then there were none. The Democrats on the city council in Stanton, Virginia, outnumbered Republicans 3-1. As of now, Republicans lead 4-0 after a humiliating defeat in a city where Barack Obama won twice. Are you kidding me? This is people waking up. The media is trying to convince us that the voters are blaming Republicans for our current crisis. But for some strange reason, Republicans keep scoring upsets. Just like in California, District 25, just like I believe Wisconsin, it's happened. Now it's happened. I really hope and pray this happens all over the country. It needs to. What's even more amazing is the fact that all three Democrats have more than doubled their votes from the previous election. No doubt due to the miracle of mail-in balloting, they were able to amass what should have been plenty of votes to win and turn it into 3 losses. So who are the voters blaming again? The Democrats have enforced lockdowns to the extreme, badly damaging the economy and small business owners in the process. Add to that the draconian gun laws that they've passed, and it becomes a perfect storm against Democrats and their policies. Augusta Free Press reporter Chris Graham wrote, Democrats got their votes out better than they have in any May cycle in years. Republicans got turnout more akin to not quite a presidential year, but approaching gubernational. Huge upset in Virginia City. And I think we're going to see and hear a heck of a lot more than absolutely. I talked a little bit about this yesterday, how these Democrats just continually want to badmouth, trash the current president of the United States. Where is the respect for the office of the presidency? We don't see hardly any on your mainstream media networks or from most Democrats today. It's an all-out, blatant lie, filthy, disgusting attack on the current president of the United States and the office. It's disgusting. Eric Swalwell. Yeah, he's the one that said, we're going to nuke them if they don't want to give up their guns. Very anti-Second Amendment. He at one point was talking about potentially some individuals were trying to push him in a way that he could maybe run for president one day. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Swalwell is going to be remembered for the time he was live on air. And these mics are hot. They pick up everything, and they're not even as hot as the lapel mics. I've done Fox hit interviews before. When you've got that mic on, if I swallow, it shows up on the mic. It shows up in the audio. Well, Eric Swalwell just happened to cut one loose. Yeah, he farted right in the middle of talking. I remember watching and laughing because he was talking, farted, and then kept talking. It was like he stopped on purpose. Didn't think anybody was going to hear it. It's because of that instead of Swalwell, we'll just call him Fartwell, especially with what he's saying.
Dave Fartwell.
What he's saying about our president absolutely stinks.
Again, we have to have an ankle monitor on this president. This is the worst possible time for a serial offender like him to be running around unsupervised. And so we just last week, in addition to passing the HEROES Act in Congress, relief for our state and local governments and our frontline workers, also gave Congress a remote functioning capability. So we will start holding hearings. We expect that any invitation or subpoena to a regular in-person congressional hearing would also be honored for virtual hearings. So we're not helpless, as I said, but that's why it's all the more important, I believe, as we go into November. We're
complicit in their agenda.
There's no getting in the way of
5G can be a
All right, guys. So
President Trump took to the Rose Garden today, and he did what he does best. Not only did he announce his new vaccine task force, not only did he set an aggressive timeline for what we can expect to see next, but he did what America needed the most, and that was simple: optimism for opening.
We have the best and most devoted workers ever to walk the face of the earth, and now we're combining all of these amazing strengths for the most aggressive vaccine project in history. And I just want to make something clear. It's very important. Vaccine or no vaccine, we're back. and we're starting the process.
And those words are like music to my ears. Vaccine or no vaccine, we are opening this country back up. That's right. Now let's compare that to what the Democrats are saying. They are pushing the same fear-mongering that they have been pushing on us for years. They're saying that we need hundreds and thousands of vaccines and hundreds of millions of tests before we can even begin to think about opening our economy back. Yeah, and why don't we have unicorns and Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy come out to help us during this time too while we're at it? What I'm trying to say here is Democrats don't trust you. They don't even like you. They do not want middle-class Americans, hard-working American workers to succeed. They want to see you down. They don't want to see you go to church. They don't want to see you go to work. They don't want to see you put food on your family's table. They don't want to see any of that. Isn't it interesting that all blue state governors, with only the exceptions of a few, all favor lockdown over liberty? Do you guys not see what's really going on here? And in my opinion, one of the totally absolute worst of these is Michigan's own Gretchen Whitmer.
Certainly not an exercise of democratic principles where we have free speech. This is calls to violence. This is racist and misogynistic. These protests, in a perverse way, make it likelier that we're going to have to stay in a stay-home posture.
And another one of these guys, Washington State's very own Jay Inslee, is now punishing American citizens in a new extension of their lockdown laws, even though they flattened the curve back in April. They are putting these extensions of punishment to American citizens until the end of May. You've got to see this.
It's just a long ways away from that, because we know that the numbers are still so high in our virus that it just can't justify opening up all these businesses right now.
Why?
These people
Why?
can't seem to get it through their heads. It's not about infections. It's about hospitalizations and deaths. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is now also escalating his tirade against the disobedient.
You is so scared.
Individual professionals that are licensed by
so
state
scared.
agencies
Just admit
will
that
be
you
held
fucking
accountable
scared.
for breaching
You
public
scared
health orders.
of the
Local law
American
enforcement
people.
and the Illinois
The
State
American
Police
people.
can and
If
will
we
take
was a
action.
big ass pussy,
Do you
we'd
feel
be
like a
a
big
great
man?
pussy.
You feel like a tough guy? And in Gavin Newsom's California, the beautiful liberal state of California, local officials are now slapping small businesses with citations and $1,000 fines, and in some cases, even threatening jail time to businesses who aren't complying with their social distancing rules and mask wearing rules. These are businesses that are already suffering.
Why
These
should
are
I?
businesses
Why should
that
I
are
give
owned
a
by
fuck
American
about
families
you?
that are
And you
already
ain't
suffering.
giving a fuck
And
about
they're
me.
threatening them with $1,000
Why?
citations and jail
You
time?
use your brain.
Is this even
You
America
use your
anymore?
brain.
LA County
You
is
use
now
your
extending
brain.
their quarantine
Why
for
should I
at
give a
least
fuck about you
another 3
and
months.
you don't give a fuck
3
about
months.
yourself?
All the while, the mayor of LA is going on a total and complete power trip.
We're still getting reports each day of non-essential businesses that continue to operate as normal. This behavior is irresponsible and selfish.
Look.
If we see continued
Look what they trying to do. They try to separate my TV from fiction. Look, all right. All I'm gonna tell you on my TV, my live show, this is me. This is me talking. This ain't the crackers talking. The crackers do not own me. Do you know what the crackers really doing? They're trying to own me. They trying to own me. They cannot own me. I own myself. My grandpa was a slave no matter fucking what. He came from Savannah, Georgia with nothing, and he made a whole fucking family out of nothing. So what the fuck can anybody tell me about my grandfather? Now, y'all go back and search y'all history and tell me your grandfather used to suck dick. And I know he did. And I know he did. I seen him. I witnessed the shit. My grandfather came from pigs and mutt yards. Pigs and mutt yards. You know what a mutt yard is? Half of you motherfuckers don't even know what a mutt yard is. Bitch, how the fuck can you even get on my conversation? Mutt yard. You don't know what a mutt yard used to be? Bitch, a mutt yard used to look like your yard, bitch. But it was a pig pen. You motherfucker. Get it right, bitch.
Returning to our new normal with all of the what we talked about through all phases.
Don't ever give me the bad blues. Because I'm telling you, I am the nigga.
Most attention to is the fact that the Democrats' agenda here isn't vaccinations or flattening the curve or whatever BS they're trying to sell you. Everything that Hillary. There is a dangerous few women in Congress.
Hold on.
Signed and championed by congressional Democrats like Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, and Rashida Tlaib, to name a few, called H.R. 5383, the Way Forward Act. This bill is so extreme and radical. If it passes, it will be the end of America as we know it. The New Way Forward Act says anyone and everyone in the world can come to America, no laws, no papers, no background checks. Not only does it eliminate illegal immigration, but it makes deporting someone virtually impossible.
I want you to come to
Regardless
America.
of any crime committed, if this bill passes,
I wanna fuck
being
the shit
here
out of you right
illegally
now.
can never again
How
result
about
in
that?
deportation. No criminal can be deported for drug offenses or fraud or felonies or depraved acts of moral degeneration
So
like
this is what you
sexual
want
assault,
to be,
child
bro?
abuse, and sex crimes against children. Any crime that carries a sentence of less than 5 years will no longer result in deportation. In many cases, this includes manslaughter. But even if you are convicted of a crime with a 5-year or longer sentences, like murder, rape, or kidnapping, this bill gives liberal judges complete discretion to allow anyone to stay in the country. This bill even eliminates the statute that bars anyone from immigrating to America if convicted abroad of drug crimes or any crimes involving moral degeneration. So rapists, child molesters, MS-13 and Mexican drug cartel gangsters, Democrats are rolling out the red carpet for you. Welcome to America.
Yep, you damn right. You damn right.
This
Welcome
bill
to
is
fucking America.
retroactive.
Welcome to
Me,
fucking America.
anyone and
America
everyone
is great again. America
who
is
has
great
been
again.
deported out of our country.
America is great.
Joe Biden has officially just absolutely crossed the line.
And you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
That has to be one of the most racist things I've ever heard come out of anybody's mouth. But it's not just anybody. It's Joe stinking Biden, the man that tried to become
This
the
who
president
y'all
of the United
want.
States.
This
Friend,
who y'all
I
want.
don't have to tell you about the times growing
can
up
suck
when
my
I woke
dick.
up smelling chitlins in the air. My grandmother and grandfather, they worked hard for everything that they had. My grandpa was a Church of God in Christ minister for 53 years. And guess what? He was a conservative. He didn't believe in abortion. He didn't believe in the agenda that the Democrats were pushing and shoveling on blacks then, nor do I now. But you know what? I don't even care where you stand politically. You could like or not like President Trump. But for this man, Joe Biden, to suggest that somebody is not a part of the black community because they choose to think differently, it's racist. It's absolutely racism 101 coming from a man that wants Obama didn't do that. Donald Trump gave record funding to historical black colleges and universities. Go look it up for yourself. President Trump even signed it into law so that it's a part of the budget that HBCUs get funding every single year. And while Joe Biden wrote the crime bill that led to the mass incarceration of black Americans around the country, President Trump signed the prison to get them out. Yes, so Joe Biden put black folks in jail. Donald Trump's been getting them released. That, my friends, is why I support President Donald Trump. And there's so much more. This man, Joe Biden, has absolutely crossed the line. He's to recuse himself.
Now what you gonna say about Joe Biden? Joe Biden sucked dick. He sucked dick. He sucked donkey dick. He been a donkey dick sucker from the beginning.
Ever since I started supporting this president.
I don't trust
racist
him.
rhetoric
I
that comes
don't
from the
trust the
mainstream
president.
media with no
You
facts.
think he
And
got
now it's
more
coming
than
out of
me?
Joe
Bitch,
Biden's
fuck you.
mouth. Actually, you know what? Thank you. Thank you, Joe Biden, for exposing what's truly going on inside that head of yours. It's dark, it's ugly, and it's nothing that any American should want to have any part of. I'm David J. Harris Jr., and I proudly support President Donald J. Trump.
People say something false, I attack those people. Because the news gets away with murder, the news media, they get away with murder. You're tough in terms of libel laws because the media is so protected, and it's ridiculous that they're so protected, but they can write virtually anything. The difference is with me, at least they pay some price. And I think more people should have that attitude, and I think you'd find a lot more accurate reporting, including yours.
What was inaccurate so far?
I thought your demeanor was inaccurate. I thought that questions that you were posing to people in my organization were inaccurate and false and unfair.
Well, questions by definition can't be inaccurate. The question.
Well, I think the questions themselves were put in such a way that made them statements, and they became statements as opposed to questions. And I think that's not good reporting.
Such as?
It doesn't matter. I mean, I don't think your viewers would be very interested in it, nor do I want to embarrass you.
No, I don't think I would be. But let's talk about what we talked about yesterday. Those in the financial community I'm talking about, and we talked about this on the phone, who have said, and this is them saying it, not me.
This is them? What do you mean by them? This is one or two people, and what about the positive people?
5 or 6, but the ones who said negative things.
Joe Biden. I can't stand this man. I can't stand him, man. Creepy Joe Biden. The man who, in front of everybody in broad daylight, likes to grope and smell and sniff women in front of 4K cameras and still claim he's just trying to build a connection with people. And people believe him. I know what you're doing, Joe. You're a creep. All you're doing is trying to get some masturbation material. You trying to get off. Yeah, he's like, oh man, I'm really not shouting over there. Hey, I'm gonna go take a quick break. I'm gonna go to the joint and squeeze. Gosh! I'm gonna squeeze one off. Sorry, people, we digress. That's what he's doing, though. Let's get back to the topic at hand. Recently, he was in Ohio talking out of his ass again.
We've already had 5 just this year. 5 black transgender women.
What? That's what y'all want to hear. That's what y'all Hawkman twins want to hear. Bitch, I don't want to hear that shit. You support Joe Biden.
Is end the Trump administration.
And he said the Trump administration.
This man would do and say anything for a vote, man. He's like that movie. He's like this. Man, you got any crack, man? Man, I'll suck your dick, man. That's Joe Biden. He'll suck your dick for a vote. I can't believe you went there. Joe, obviously, you don't know that gay people have been persecuted since the beginning of time. How did you draw the correlation? It's because of Trump. Yeah, how do you even know if the people that murdered these 5 transgender women were Trump supporters? How do you even know that their motivations was because of Trump? That is absurd to even make an insinuation like that. You are what I call Mr. Panderer. All you doing is pandering to the gay community. Yeah, and gay people, if you're watching this video, this man does not care about transgender. Look, this is how Democrats work. They break you up into groups, right? It's gay, black, women, gun rights. If you're straight and you're white, forget about you. Right? See, the reason why they break you up into groups, they try to tap into your emotion, divide and conquer. They try to tap into your emotion so they can galvanize these groups so they will vote for him. The more they divide this country, The more divisive they are, the more votes they can get. They don't care about the American people. Like, for example, I'll give you a perfect example of this. In mass shootings, gun deaths. Yeah. It's emotional. Really emotional. It's really emotional. People, everybody. Yeah, it's emotional for everybody. But they use it to galvanize people for votes. Yeah. So they get on the side of taking away gun rights. But look here. In mass shootings, we blame the gun. Yeah, we blame the NRA. Yeah, we don't blame the person, right? It's absurd, right? It's absurd. Now look at it from this point of view. Let's say you take a drunk driver, right? He kills somebody, right? While driving drunk. We blame the person. We don't blame the car. Yeah. We don't blame Ford. We don't blame Toyota. We don't blame the tire company, Michelin. We don't blame Budweiser. We blame the driver. But when it comes to gun deaths, we blame the gun. But most importantly, who's doing the blaming? They're all liberal Democrats. Yeah, they're doing it to tap into your emotion to get votes. That's why they do that. Yeah, that's why you see it on CNN. You see it on all the liberal news networks. Yeah. You see all the politicians because that's a great opportunity for them to divide America and galvanize people for votes. Yeah. He's always been a panderer because he has no ideas to make this country great again. He has no policies, right? This is him in front of a bunch of black people.
Look at what they value and look at their budget and what they're proposing. Romney wants to he said the first 100 days, he's going to let the big banks once again write their own rules. Unchain Wall Street. They're going to put you all back in chains.
No, they ain't gonna put me back in.
Put us back in chains if we don't vote Democrat. Now that's what I call Democrat dependency right there. If you let these Republicans in here, y'all gonna be slaves again. How dumb can a person be? Yeah, they label Republicans as racist. They need my vote. He's pandering to you. Yeah, this is nothing new. This is what Democrats do. They called every opponent against Obama racist with no proof. They call Trump a racist. No proof. Yeah. They don't care about the American people. They don't care about the transgender deaths. But you know what? Yeah. They're going to stand on the graves of those transgenders and use it as opportunity to get your vote. They could give a shit. All they care about is votes. And they will do and say anything. Yeah. We don't know why those 5 transgenders died. We don't know the scenario. Were they participating in some kind of risky behavior? Yeah. It may not have nothing to do with being transgender. We don't know. We don't know the fact. We don't even know if it had to do anything about race, sexual orientation. We don't even know. All we know is that there's been 5 black transgenders. And we do know gays have been persecuted since the beginning of time. So he uses that to garner people's votes. And that's the only fact here. Yeah. Gays have been persecuted. So when something like this happens, man, this is a huge opportunity for me to galvanize the gay community. Get me some votes. Joe, you are one sick, low life. You will do anything for a vote. Yeah. Anything.
But no, y'all would do anything for a vote too. Y'all would do anything for a vote too. Y'all would do anything for a vote too.
Tell me about Dreamer.
Oh, well, when I saw the State of the Black Union, Dick Gregory really moved me and a lot of my.
All right, I'm going to say something might strike you as a little.
Last night, the United States brought the world's #1 terrorist leader to justice. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead. He died like a dog. He died like a coward. He was whimpering, screaming, and crying. And frankly, I think it's something that should be brought out so that his followers and all of these young kids that want to leave various countries, including the United States, they should see how he died.
Crying and whimpering and screaming the entire way. He died like a dog.
I got your Hawkman twin. I got your Hawkman twin. I got your ass. I got your ass. I got your ass.
This is why I like this person.
I got your ass.
The reason
I got your
why
ass.
I like him so much is he's not a politician. He's just a man being a man doing a man's job. Like Obama came out, we got Osama bin Laden.
No, Trump comes out there. He's a coward. He died like a dog. He was whimpering and crying and screaming the whole way. How do you whimper and scream at the I guess that's what cowards do. Turns out, I guess the guy had a vest on. Yeah. And he was trying to run away. For some reason, he didn't know he was running to a damn dead-end tunnel. It sounds like an idiot to me. He blew himself up. Whimpering and crying and screaming. He died by his own sword. What a true coward. Hey, that's what cowards do. He trying to call Abu, what's his name, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi? Man, that's a tongue twister for me. It sounds like a damn, you know what that sound like? A damn animal, man. Well, it's a different culture, so yeah, I know. That was pretty racist for me to say that. I apologize if I offended anybody. Oh well, get over it. Look here. And Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Yeah, so that's a unique name, man. Very unique. But anyway, in the Washington Post, they put out this article claiming he was some religious scholar. Wow, that's what we call terrorists nowadays? You know why Washington Post did that? Because Trump is in office. The double standard, the hypocrisy by the media is insane. Yo, Washington Post, you're not even liberal, you're just straight leftist. How you gonna call a damn terrorist a damn scholar? And then on top of that, they're trying to say they're going to use Trump's speech to recruit people. Yeah, MSNBC come out. That was unprofessional what Trump did. That was professional, if you ask me, right? And now they're going to use this to recruit more terrorists. Look here, ISIS never had any troubles getting terrorists. Yeah, evil does. Yeah, because evil will find evil. Hey, if you ask me personally, and this is just my opinion, if I'm looking to join a terrorist organization and I see Trump's speech, I'm like, what? He was crying and whimpering and screaming the whole way? I changed my mind. I don't want no part of that. I'm going to go be a doctor. Yeah. Hey, we got some new shows coming. We're going to San Antonio, Arlington, Dallas, Houston, Bakersfield, Austin, Texas, Kansas City, Oklahoma City, Denver, Libertyville, Joliet.
Don't you just love how if you dare to question the government-mandated lockdowns, you're labeled a partisan or a virus truther? Well, I'm here to tell you tonight, you are no such thing. Why shouldn't we question our politicians? In fact, it's our responsibility, our civic duty to question our elected officials, especially when they're wrong. Take California, for example. Governor Gavin Newsom is giving taxpayer money in the form of coronavirus stimulus checks to illegal aliens. Should we not question why Newsom is giving our money to illegal aliens instead of citizens when 27% of the workforce in San Diego is unemployed thanks to Newsom's lockdown? If not, why not? California also released 7 high-level sex offenders, some of them child sex offenders, from jail early for fear of them contracting COVID-19, even though the sheriff said the jail was perfectly qualified to do social distancing. Should we not question why California put innocent people at risk from vile sex offenders who the district attorney says are highly likely to reoffend, all in the name of COVID-19? If not, why not? Data analysis from Ovik Roy at the Foundation for Research on Equal Opportunity shows that children are more likely to die from the flu than to die from COVID-19. In fact, children under 1 year old are 17 times more likely to die from the flu than from COVID-19. Kids 1 to 4 are 20 times more likely to die from the flu than from COVID. Kids aged 5 to 14 are 6.83 times more likely to die from the flu than from COVID. Teenagers and young adults between the ages of 15 and 24 are 1.25 times more likely to die from the flu than from COVID-19. Furthermore, studies from the World Health Organization, the UK, and the Netherlands show children are not significant vectors of transmitting the virus. Data from Sweden shows children have not started any outbreaks of the COVID-19 virus, even though they've been in school this whole time. And a new study from Australia shows children transmit the flu more often at school than COVID-19. So should we not question our politicians why schools are still closed here in the United States? If not, why not? 40% of COVID-19 deaths in our country are happening in nursing homes and long-term care facilities. More than half of COVID-19 deaths in 20 states in the US are in nursing homes, including 81% in Minnesota, 72% in New Hampshire, 75% in Rhode Island, and 60% in Washington State, Oregon, Nebraska, North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, and Delaware. Should we not question why governors like Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf and New York Governor Andrew Cuomo forced nursing homes to accept COVID-positive patients, putting the rest of their residents at risk? Should we not question why most blue state governors have not adequately secured nursing homes to this day, high-risk populations, but instead are locking down low-risk populations? If not, why not? Never let a politician or a media talking head.
There's no outrunning 5G.
Let me tell you something. See, you got to understand about the transitions in life, right? When you come from making hundreds, it's a transitions to a different way of living when you start making thousands. And then when you go from making thousands and going to millions, you got to transition the way you live at that point. And see, you're going to have people, when you first get your $1 million check or when you first open your business and you start booming, you have people that knew you from the hood that's still stuck in the hood that's going to try to pull you back off your insecurities that you ain't real no more. But see, you got to let me tell you something. Always allow yourself in every situation when you're dealing with people to mentally respond to them and never emotionally overreact. Like people.
How did a high school dropout, a felon 18 who had no car, no computer, no credit?
This is a public service announcement for all folks. Your government is out to kill you. They're going to open this country up way too soon with this virus, way too serious. The reason they want to do that is because they know poor folks going to go out there and spend them $1,200. They're going to go shopping. They're going to go out partying. They're going to spread the virus. They're going to kill off a bunch of poor folks because the rich motherfuckers will not be out there. They're not going to be in the store selling their merchandise. You in their store selling their merchandise. This is a population control epidemic that's going to be used to kill folks off. Y'all got to be smarter. When they open the country up, it's so they can kill your stupid motherfucking ass. It's not for the money. It's not for them to get richer. They're going to get that anyway. It's so they can kill you stupid motherfuckers off. Do not rush out your house believing that this virus is a joke. Too many motherfuckers dying, and this is too serious for you to be that fucking stupid. Stay your ass home.
You need to see this bombshell story finally released by the mainstream media. Dr. Fauci backed controversial Wuhan lab with millions of US dollars for risky coronavirus research. You won't believe this. Just last year, the National Institute for Allergy and Infectious Diseases, the organization led by Dr. Fauci, funded scientists at the Wuhan Institute of Virology and other institutions for work on gain-of-function research on bat coronaviruses. What a coincidence. Many scientists have criticized gain-of-function research, which involves manipulating viruses in the lab to explore their potential for infecting humans because it creates a risk of starting a pandemic from accidental release. The NIH research consisted of two parts. The first part began in 2014 and involved surveillance of bat coronaviruses and had a budget of $3.7 million. The program funded by Shizhang Li, a virologist at the Wuhan lab, and other researchers to investigate and catalog bat coronaviruses in the wild. This part of the project was completed in 2019. A second phase of the project beginning that year included additional surveillance work, but also gain-of-function research for the purpose of understanding how bat coronaviruses could mutate to attack humans. The article goes on to talk about what the project proposal stated. In layman's terms, spillover potential refers to the ability of a virus to jump from animals to humans, which requires that the virus be able to receptors in the cells of humans. SARS-CoV-2, for instance, is adept at binding to the ACE2 receptor in human lungs and other organs. According to Richard Ebright, an infectious disease expert at Rutgers University, the project description refers to experiments that would enhance the ability of bat coronavirus virus to infect human cells and laboratory animals using techniques of genetic engineering. In the wake of the pandemic, that is a noteworthy detail. Yes, it is. Ebright, along with many other scientists, has been a vocal opponent of gain-of-function research because of the risk it presents of creating a pandemic through accidental release from a lab. It's worth noting that Richard Ebright, you can see on his Twitter or in the press, that he actually thinks it's a possibility that this was leaked from a lab, yet Facebook and US Today try to fact check my articles and say, we quote Richard Ebright, but we don't think that this was man manipulated from a lab. Well, that's great, and their fact checking was so sloppy that after I exposed them, they had to change it from false to partly false because they don't know what they're talking about. But it's interesting to note that's the same scientists that they try to use against me in this article. Fauci defends this type of research that Richard Ebright and others didn't want to happen. And this article went on to say the work in question was a type of gain-in-function research that involved taking wild viruses and passing them through live animals until they mutate into a form that could pose a pandemic threat. Let's read that again. The work in question was a type of gain-in-function research that involved taking wild viruses and passing them through live animals until they mutate into a form that could pose a pandemic threat. It gets crazier. Scientists used it to take a virus that was poorly transmitted among humans and make it into one that was highly
This is tyranny. That's what this is. This is
transmissible, a hallmark of a pandemic virus. I mean, my gosh, how could that go wrong? Besides everybody who warned him. Let's go on. The work entailed risks that worried even seasonal researchers. More than 200 scientists called for the work to be halted. The problem, they said, is that it increased the likelihood that a pandemic would occur through a laboratory accident. Dr. Fauci defended the work. I'm sure he did, blah, 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 blah. Nevertheless, in 2014, under pressure from the Obama administration, the National Institute of Health instituted a moratorium of that work, suspending 21 studies. 3
communism.
years later, though, in December 2017, the NIH ended the moratorium and the second phase of the NIAID project, which included the gain-of-function research, began. The NIH established a framework for determining how the research would go forward. Scientists have to get approval from a panel of experts who would decide whether the risks were justified. The reviews were indeed conducted, but in secret, for which the NIH has drawn criticism. In early 2019, after a reporter for Science magazine discovered that the NIH had approved 2 influenza.
Come on, this is communism. What are you guys doing? For people to walk in one direction? Okay, this is insanity. You know this. What the? God, this is crazy. Who's the town manager for Swampscott? And I bet he supports Charlie Baker. Oh my God. So people, now what happens if I don't walk in? What if I do this? And I will, because this is what I'm going to do. What happens if I do this? What do they do to me? I know you guys are doing your job, but this is insanity. This is tyranny. That's what this is. This is communism. Come on, this is communism. No, it isn't. I have a double master's in nursing. What kind of health is this? You're gonna get a COVID from walking down the street?
Why, with all their money, are the LeBron Jameses and the Jay-Z's and everybody else partaking in this? Do they not have a choice? Are they compromising somewhere that they have to go along with this? Are they sadistic? Is it self-hatred?
Mm-hmm.
What is it? All of the above? Because what I don't understand is why are the people we celebrate the most among ourselves, the black people we celebrate the most, seemingly the most weaponized against us.
Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, greatest African psychiatrist in modern history from this city, said, if you don't understand white supremacy, what it is and how it operates, nothing else will make sense to you in this society. The reason why those who are least interested in helping us fix our problem are the most celebrated is because they are the ones that are put out in front of our children to be celebrated. If you were not loyal to Black people before you got rich, you definitely will not be loyal to Black people after you get rich. But let's go further. During slavery, when a rebellious slave misbehaved, what would they do? They would put him out in front of all the slaves, and they would whip him and tar and feather him and lynch him as a message to the others. Every generation, white America makes a sacrifice of a Black celebrity. Look at your entire life. I've been on the planet 45 years. Every generation of my life, every decade, white America finds a celebrity that they put out and destroy them as a reminder to LeBron and Oprah and Lee Daniels and Tyler Perry and everyone else. Jay-Z, Beyonce, don't forget, you might be a billionaire, but remember who helped you make that money. At the end of the day, y'all got the money, but we got the power. That's why they don't mind signing a $100 million contract. Because everybody in your circle is white. Your agent is white. Your lawyer is white. Your publicist is white. Your banker is white. The person selling you the car is white. So do you know what a Black celebrity really is? He's a water scraper. He's a redistributor of white wealth. Because you can't use that money to help your own people. The reason they don't help us is because the white man has made it clear. Number one, white people will not support Black people who are loyal to Black folks. You cannot become a popular celebrity in America if you are unapologetic. It's impossible. You must do what? Compromise yourself in the presence of white folk. You must be an acceptable Negro. If you are not an acceptable Negro, they will destroy you. I like LeBron James, and I see he got some Black manhood in him, but he's trying to navigate this in his final years because he's concerned about what his public memory and image will be after he retires. Oprah's doing the same thing. You see, they want to help, but they know white folks don't value Black people who know they Black and want to help Black people. That's a crime in America, being loyal to Black. You can't be rich and be loyal to Black folks because you end up like Johnny Cochran, assassinated, so-called brain aneurysm. They murdered Johnny Cochran because he was investigating how much money America owes Black people for slavery. First he gets OJ off, then he gets Geronimo Pratt of the Black Panther Party off for free, defended him for free. And then he says, I'm going to go into reparations and find out what America owed Black folks. Black folks said, we can't let this Negro come out with no price. White folks said, we can. They killed him. That's what they do. Look what they did to Bill Cosby. This is the #1 Black television star.
Yeah.
He is the father of Black comedy. There were those before him, but in terms of opening the door to mainstream, Cosby was everything. He's sitting in a prison in Philadelphia right now.
At 80-something years
legally
old.
blind. It takes 2 guards for him to eat, 2 guards for him to go to the bathroom, 2 guards for him to get dressed, 2 guards to help him in. This man is the #1 Black public personality in modern history. And look what they did to him. And they used white women to do it.
What was his crime?
His crime
was
technically what he was charged with.
No, I know what he was charged with.
What he was charged with,
to make him
what
be
he
a
was
target
charged with,
for
what he was
destruction.
charged
wanted to
with,
buy a
he
Mason
was
Depot.
charged with a lot of
Last time he
things.
tried to do it, they
He
killed
was
his son
charged with
inside
a
the
lot
room.
of things. He
Bill
was
Cosby
charged
re-upped
with,
because he's a billionaire. He said, I'm going to get one of these networks before I die.
he was
And
trying
it's
to
another
buy,
one.
he was
So
trying
they
to
found
buy
those white women that
NBC.
come. First of all,
He was trying to buy
you're the
NBC.
#1 Black TV
He
star
was trying
in
to buy
America,
NBC.
1970s.
And they ain't
You
like that.
sexually harass a white woman. She benefits from white privilege. You suffer from white racism. What white woman do you know, if you sexually harassed her in this building today, is going to wait 40 years to tell on you? She's going to tell on you right now and destroy you right now. Bill Cosby didn't do nothing wrong. Everybody knows in Hollywood they use sex and drugs. Yeah, he gave them pills. You know why? Because they wanted the pills. Because that's what they do.
I've said that myself.
Yeah.
He sexually harassed
Yes,
you, but yet you
yes,
kept on calling
yes,
him.
they do.
You kept on seeing him.
You went to his house when his wife wasn't there, to his hotel rooms and all that.
The
Yeah,
Bill
I know.
Cosby crucible is a good message to Black men who love white girls. They can sex you. They can marry you. They can have your babies. They can take care of you. But when they get that phone call from that white male and say it's now time for you to do a job for your people, they will gladly do it. See, one of the problems we have as Black people, we fail to realize that racism is not personal. Racism is business. See, Black people will have a white friend and say, well, those are my white friends. Okay, they may be, but you need to understand something. Those may be your friends, but they have a loyalty and an obligation to being white before they are the friend of a Black person. And if they have to do something to you in order to look out for the best interest of white power and white control, they will do it. They will gladly sacrifice your friendship to help white people achieve their agenda, as those white women did to Bill Cosby.
Now, Robert Moulton, just
look,
to rehash, to wrap up.
Just think about what
Robert
I just
Moulton
said.
was
I don't argue with
which was
nothing.
founded in Philadelphia.
I never argue.
And allegedly, there's a quote circulating saying that W.E.B. Du Bois, who I believe was a founding member of what was the Phi Sigma Pi, the Boule, he said, quote, and I still have to find the reference, but this is what's circulating, that W.E.B. Du Bois said, quote, the Boule was started to keep the educated Black man away from the Honorable Marcus Garvey.
Well, and you know, and in my last episode, I discussed the Boule to some degree because it's important. It's important that people understand
the Black bourgeoisie. The
Black bourgeoisie, and their role is to really keep the
gatekeeper.
The gatekeepers, yes. And they've been traditionally recruited through the HBCUs
Yes.
and so on and so forth.
In Howard University, which we love, is the #1 recruiting site for Black agents of the FBI. That's a documented fact.
You know, and me personally, I believe this is why Roland Martin came out against Wendy Williams when she said there was no more need for the
And
HBCU.
he's also Boule.
He said it himself on the Breakfast Club that he's Boule.
Yeah.
I've had many interactions with him.
Oh, yeah, he's a proud Boule.
Oh yeah, proud.
And that's why he tried to come against me on the show I did with him.
Oh yeah. But to me, he can't be a high-ranking Boule, or he wouldn't be advertised.
He wouldn't be advertised.
He's a step and fetch
Yeah,
Boule.
yeah.
But again,
no neck boy.
but it shifted from those type of educated Black people to the celebrities now. I don't think I think they're obsolete in this day and era.
You make a good point.
You know,
you make a good point. Because there's not enough Black professionals to hold the attention of Blacks in the ghetto and in the underclass. So now the Black Boule has become the Black celebrity class.
That's it.
So that you know what that means,
And
though.
they don't need
That means that
education. They're even dumber. They're even dumber.
Yes.
Not to indict.
But do you know what that
anybody in
means?
particular, yeah.
That means we're going to have to take on the rappers.
Of course.
We're going to have to take on the football players.
I'm
We're gonna have
already
to take
doing
on-
it.
Yes. But see, our youth don't have the political maturity to see that the same person whose music you're listening to, your favorite basketball player, is now the gatekeeper for white power. He's the one that's going to co-sign and silently defend police genocide.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are we at with this whole?
Then they've worked this thing on us where we can't work together. Won't.
I was approached by one of Bill Clinton's bodyguards.
Last week there was another church shooting.
Oh.
A mistake of them aiming a damn rocket. Last week there was another church shooting.
Oh.
And the only thing that saved the rest of the congregation were the other two people who they were shot and took out the shooter. Would you support a universal concealed carry law for everyone in the country who's willing to be licensed and checked by the government?
No.
I don't feel safer going to my church, knowing somebody could be sitting next to me with weapons. I don't feel safer going to the mall.
I hate to admit it there, Elizabeth. I guess what Trump says about you is true. You are stupid. You're not very bright. Man, you're being too mean, man. You should have said it a different way. Just say she's not the sharpest knife in the kitchen. Now I'll take it a step further. She's a butter knife. I'll take it a step even further. You're a plastic knife. You're pretty much useless. This is what y'all wanted. You wanted universal background checks and training. Yeah, and license. Government. Now you don't want that. Now you want all these criminals just walk around with guns? This incident that happened at church, that saved lives when the good guys have the guns. Yeah. Y'all don't make any sense. There's over how many guns in this country? Over 200 to 300 million guns, man. That's a whole lot of guns. And you think y'all gonna come out with some new law saying, because y'all want to ban all guns. Y'all think y'all just gonna ban all guns and the criminals like, damn it. Oh man, I'm just gonna throw away my sawed-off shotgun. I know what I'll do. I'll go to a construction yard, pick up some cinder blocks, and just bash people in the head with them when I want to rob somebody or hurt somebody. No, they're gonna keep their guns. And then all this other nonsense you spewing. Talk about she don't feel safe in a church knowing people got guns. Elizabeth, I know good and well when you go to church, you got Secret Service with you. In fact, you got Secret Service with you 24/7. As many as 30 to 40 people with you around the clock, making sure you're well taken care of. When you go to the mall, you got somebody there with a gun. Pretty much just tell your own constituents, you guys are a bunch of losers. You don't need guns. I'm important. I need security. If something happens to you, just call the cops. Just hold down the fort, run, scatter, do whatever you got to do. Duck and roll. The cops will get there eventually. Look here, Elizabeth. You need to lead by example. You need to get rid of all your security detail. Right? And plus, we got this issue going on in Iran, right? Go fly down there to Iran without your security detail. Go to them and say, look. We want peace. Right? They're going to be like, peace? We don't want peace, bitch. Look, Elizabeth, evil exists. Every now and then, you got to drop a bomb on a bitch and send his body parts scattering about 15 miles to let them know we ain't playing that. You got to make sure that damn casket is closed during the funeral. Only thing that's going to be there is a boot, 10 wedding bands from all his wives, a damn picture of his camel, and his boots. Look here, if you was to go down to Iran and say we want peace, they're going to say, no peace. They're going to actually kill you. Not only are they going to kill you, Elizabeth, they're going to chop your fucking head off on live television. You're going to go out screaming and whimpering the entire way. You liberals, you leftists. I believe they would actually hold your head up on national television and yell, death to America. They would do that to you. Do you realize evil do exist? Look, I'm not saying drop a bomb on Iran and turn it into an Arby's parking lot. All we saying is, every once in a while, you got to blow somebody up. Let them know, you know what? How many times can you do something to America and say, oh, stop that? Like Justin Trudeau, y'all see his speech? Talking about he wants some clarity.
What Iran has admitted to is very serious. Shooting down a civilian aircraft is horrific. Iran must take full responsibility. Canada will not rest until we get the accountability, justice, and closure that the families deserve.
You think you're going to get accountability from Iran? They don't want peace in that country, man. They can never have peace. You think that was a mistake? A mistake is locking your keys in the car. You think that was a mistake of them aiming a damn rocket at a plane? Getting in focus and pushing the button. Y'all think that's a mistake? This ain't no mistake. They wanted this. Elizabeth Warren. Man, the woman that was bragging about being 1/1000th of a Native American. You're not bright. You're not bright at all. He coached you into doing that, and you that stupid to even go public with your results. That's how stupid you are. You're being mean, man. Man, you did a DNA test and talking about, I told you I was Native American. I'm 1/1000th of Native American. I'm just hearing that number. I'm not great at math, but 1/1000th, I know that's not much. I felt uncomfortable coming out to black people telling them that I was only 52% black. You out here bragging about being 1/1000th of a Native American. Woman, you batshit crazy. We got some new shows coming. We going to Kansas City, Raleigh, North Carolina, Des Moines, Iowa, Omaha, Nebraska, that is, Oklahoma City, Denver, Colorado, Tempe, Arizona, Brea, California, Libertyville, Illinois, Joliet, Illinois, San Jose, California, Irvine, California, Nashville, Tennessee, Huntsville, Alabama, Bulls Gap, Tennessee, Ottawa, Ontario, Brookville, Wisconsin. That's Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Go to hardswinstore.com for tickets.
So I just got my subscription in from Infinite Age, and I got Iris CMOS. And the reason why I got this is because I'm a business owner, and in order for me to perform at my best, I gotta make sure that I don't.
Jeffrey Epstein, suicide. How did this happen? I was looking so forward to the trial.
Dr. Fauci testified in the Senate yesterday. He said the U.S. will face needless suffering and death if the U.S. reopens our economy too soon. Take a listen.
Because I feel if that occurs, there is a real risk that you will trigger an outbreak that you may not be able to control, which in fact, paradoxically.
Dr. Fauci testified in the Senate yesterday. He said the U.S. will face needless suffering and death if the U.S. reopens our economy too soon. Take a listen.
Because I feel if that occurs, there is a real risk that you will trigger an outbreak that you may not be able to control, which in fact, paradoxically will set you back, not only leading to some suffering and death that could be avoided, but could even set you back on the road to trying to get economic recovery, because it would almost turn the clock back rather than going forward. That is my major concern, Sen.
And listen, I get it. COVID-19 is a tragedy. We already know that. It's awful how many Americans have died from the virus. And I think we're all willing to do everything within reason to protect vulnerable people from COVID-19. But do lockdowns actually work? What science is Fauci's pro-lockdown fear-mongering based on? Because here are the scientific facts. Young, healthy people and children are at very low risk of dying from COVID-19. In New York, the fatality rate for people between the ages of 18 and 45 is 0.01%. For kids, the fatality rate is statistically 0%. Multiple studies have shown kids are not significant vectors of the virus either, meaning they rarely transmit it even if they contract it. The people at the highest risk from COVID-19 are the elderly infirm, in nursing homes especially, and even during the lockdowns. Many state governors, like New York's Andrew Cuomo, were forcing nursing homes to accept COVID-positive residents into their facilities, which of course caused the virus to spread like wildfire. Meanwhile, young, healthy people were locked down in their homes. And 66% of new COVID hospitalizations in New York were people who stayed at their homes, which means the lockdowns didn't help. In fact, scientific studies show transmission of the virus happens indoors among family members 18 times more often than outdoors via casual contact. Studies from Hong Kong, Taiwan, Germany, and Japan all confirm that. Furthermore, when people take individual measures to prevent transmission, like they did at the Wisconsin elections, when 300,000 people voted in person, that is effective. Scientists found there was no detectable surge in COVID cases after the Wisconsin election. Remember why we originally locked down.
Hey guys, Ryan Fournier here, National Co-Chair and founder of Students for Trump.
The game ain't the same to me in this plane.
Listen, you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump,
Democrats have been adamant.
Joe Biden said that you ain't black if you don't vote for him. Come on, man. Let's talk about it.
so if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
This is Joe Biden's true colors. This is exactly Joe Biden. This is actually the Democrat left. This is what I've been talking about. And many people that have left the Democrat plantation, we've been talking about this very thing for the longest. And now you get to see it for yourself. Joe Biden basically saying if you're not voting for a Democrat and he just happened to be an old white man, which the left is no longer saying is the worst thing on the planet for the most part, but you have Joe Biden saying that if you don't vote for the Democrat, you are not black. That's exactly what they're saying, as if the Democrats own the black vote.
And this Biden recovery I'm going to put together will bring everybody along. We're going to build a better future, not back to what we had, but back to something better than we had.
A better, back to better, back to better, back to the plantation better.
Come on, man.
Let's talk about 2016. 2016 when President Trump was going against Hillary Rodham Clinton, and at the time he was candidate Trump, but ultimately won the election. Now they're trying to say that it's not going to be a repeat of 2016, and that's what they think is going to take place. Now, this guy, the Breakfast Club, he's asking Joe Biden some questions about the 2016 election, and do you think it's going to repeat? Listen to Joe Biden's response.
Yeah, we know polls can be illusions, though. Like, we looked at all the polls in 2016 too, and look what happened.
Totally different, man. 2016 is totally different. What you had then is you had somebody who didn't know it all. They wanted to just change the system the way it was. He was the biggest change. He had no serious opposition.
Did he just throw Hillary Rodham Clinton under the bus? Yeah. No serious opposition? Who could he possibly be talking about other than Hillary Rodham Clinton? Of course he was talking about her.
Come on, man.
You always have black people saying that they are owed something, as if black people don't have the capability of going out and earning something. So here in this next clip, you're going to hear this guy from the Breakfast Club, which he's pretty much just letting Joe Biden get away with every lie that he's going to say, which you're going to see more of that coming up. But he's going to ask Joe Biden, don't you think black people should get what's due to them? And Joe Biden, of course, just like the typical Democrat, says talking points, but never actually do anything, because that is the model of the Democrat Party, or in this case, the Democrat KKK Party. Listen to this.
I'm glad to hear you say that. I don't know if you saw a couple weeks ago, Sean Combs, you might know him as Diddy.
Yeah.
He said what I believe a lot of black voters, including myself, feel, and that's that Democrats take black voters for granted. Votes are quid pro quo, right? It's not like I don't want to vote. I just want to know what candidates will do for us in exchange for our votes. The same way young progressive Latinos, the LGBT community,
absolutely,
we want the same thing. Do you feel like black people are owed that from the Democratic Party?
The 8th largest black population, and Joe Biden's getting their vote when they just talked about the Democrat Party doing something for black people, and after 40 years, you still not received anything from Joe Biden as far as the black community, nothing but misery. Really?
What people don't know about me is I come from a state that's the 8th largest black population in America. The 8th largest. I get 96% of that vote for the last 40 years. Come on, man. That's why you had the vast majority of the Black Caucus at the time supporting the crime bill. Almost every major city black mayor supported the crime bill.
Man,
because blacks were getting killed overwhelmingly as well. And what happened when that crime bill? It had 4 or 5 really important things. It had the Violence Against Women Act. It said drug court, don't send anybody who has a drug problem to jail, send them to rehabilitation, to a drug court. It had in it, they had the assault weapons ban, getting rid of assault weapons, getting rid of the number of rounds you could have in a gun. It also had in it a whole range of other things, but had things I didn't like. Clinton wanted to put in a deal where, in fact, 3 strikes and you're out. I opposed that 3 strikes and you're out bill. I opposed the position taken that saying that you're going to have any mandatory sentences. But on balance, the whole bill, what happened was it did, in fact, bring down violent crime in black communities as well. And guess what? The fact is, prison population didn't increase, 94%.
In the late 80s and the early 90s, Biden was on the Senate Judiciary Committee that perpetuated the law on drugs and mass incarceration. Let me tell you about a few bills that were sponsored and supported by Forget About Everything Biden, because obviously he forgot all about this. Comprehensive Control Act. In 1984, this law, spearheaded by Biden and Senator Thurmond, expanded federal drug trafficking penalties and civil assets forfeitures, which allow police to seize and absorb personal property, whether it be cash, cars, guns, something else. Can you say drugs? Without proving the person is guilty of a crime. Does that sound like something any familiar? Like today, recently, Russia. How they try to say President Trump was guilty of something without even proving it. It's the same thing they did then. It's the same thing they're doing now. They have made it to where you are guilty until proven innocent. But anyways, I digress. Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1986. This is something else. Sponsored and partially written by yours, of course, forgettable Biden.
Come on, man.
Raised the penalty for drug crimes. It also created a big sentencing disparity between crack and powder cocaine. The law made it so someone would need to possess 100 times the amount of powder cocaine to be eligible for the same mandatory minimum sentence for crack cocaine. Since crack is more commonly used in the black neighborhoods, this sentencing disparity helped fuel the big racial disparities in incarcerations. And you still have black people supporting the very party that keep doing it to them. You have to ask yourself, why? Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1988. This law, co-sponsored by forgettable Biden, strengthened prison sentences for drug possessions, enhanced penalties for transporting drugs, and established the Office of National Drug Control Policies, which coordinated and leads the federal anti-drug efforts. Thank you, forgettable Joe Biden.
Come on, man.
Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act. This 1994 law, partially written by forgettable Biden, because, he forgot about all of this, imposed tougher sentences and increased funding for prisons, contributing the growth of the U.S. prison population from the 1990s through the 2000s. Wow, how time has flown by, right? Think about it. The fact is, Biden helped write some of the most important pieces of the federal legislation in the war on drugs that helped create the sentencing disparity for crack and powder cocaine. And he was behind other laws that perpetuated mass incarceration and increased police powers. Biden doesn't have a record he can defend, but yet you can see in this video, he's trying to do that very thing.
Why so much resistance on admitting the crime bill and other legislation you are a part of was damaging to the Black community? Because we had Hillary on a few years ago, and Ms. Clinton said that the crime bill, we made a lot of mistakes with that, and she wanted to atone for that by becoming the next president.
She was wrong. What happened was, it wasn't the crime bill. It was the drug legislation.
What? Wait a minute. Second 2 times in the same video, Joe Biden throws Hillary Rodham Clinton under the bus. I don't think that's a gaffe.
Come on, man.
Biden was a huge part of the war on drugs and the police powers that incarcerated Blacks. In 1989, Senator Biden went to the national television and criticized the plan from President George H.W. Bush to escalate the war on drugs. He said the plan did not go far enough. He said, quite frankly, the president's plan is not tough enough, bold enough, or imaginative enough to meet the crisis at hand. He called not just for harsh punishment for drug dealers, but hold every drug user accountable. Biden added that Bush's plan doesn't include enough police officers to catch the violent thugs, not enough prosecutors to convict them, not enough judges to sentence them, and not enough prison cells to put these black people away for a long time. I added the black people part. A direct call for more incarceration. You have a Democrat that's saying that the Republicans that are all racist not being tough enough on black people. Come on, man. This is your Joe Biden, or forgettable Joe Biden. Joe Biden can't remember anything Biden.
Come on, man.
And on top of that, they say that the black women never will leave the Democrat Party. If after listening to Joe Biden in this video and listen to this Yahoo on the Breakfast Club, why would you be a black woman still voting for the Democrat Party? This is so blatantly in your face about what the Democrat Party is all about, and you're going to continue to support a party that denigrates and demeans black women and white women, white men and black men. They demonize people all across the board. They don't want a white person at all, because this is something that he's going to say that Joe Biden and other white Democrats owe the black community. You need to put
That's what they say, but then you get these.
Of love or
about pushing through nationwide mail-in voting. Nancy Pelosi wanted to get mail-in voting nationwide through with a coronavirus relief package. The argument is that because it's unsafe to go out due to the coronavirus, we should all vote by mail. But Republicans are concerned this will lead to widespread voter fraud. No one will be checking where the ballots are coming from, where they're going, and you'll just be hoping that the ballots are actually secure. There are concerns that people could easily slip in ballots, fraudulently fill out ballots, or someone could get the ballots for their kids or their parents, fill out them for the other family members, and basically commit voter fraud. Well, many people are arguing there's no such thing. There's no voter fraud. It's a myth. Put it to rest. And I've got several arguments to show you from people who claim that's the case. But we actually are seeing now some freaky goings on and some real instances that raise questions about whether or not we're really seeing voter fraud, notably in North Jersey, where people are claiming they didn't actually get their ballots yet. For some reason, it is being said they voted. In Maryland, they received absentee ballots from South Carolina. And in Nevada, there's ballots lying around and weird videos popping up. People are pointing their finger at these mail-in ballot inconsistencies, and they're very concerned about it. But while they say voter fraud is not widespread, it's not serious, we actually have a breaking story from South Philly. A judge of elections has actually admitted to taking bribes to stuff the ballot box for Democratic candidates, more than one. Now, some may argue it's a local election, doesn't matter. No, I tell you this, local elections are the most important. Now, I think it's fair to say they're all equally important, but too often we disregard local elections and the seriousness of how these things impact our lives. And you got to understand that most of what we go through every day is at the local level. So we need to be paying attention because things like this are absolutely happening. Now, whether or not these stories translate to a greater trend of nationwide mail-in voting, I don't know. But I will tell you, if Republicans are concerned that there could be mail fraud through mail-in voting, and we actually have evidence in certain areas it does happen, perhaps then we should consider that mail-in voting is not secure. Maybe the Democrats want to make an argument for it. There has to be some very serious precautions taken and very serious security measures for mail-in ballots, but maybe it's just not possible. Let's take a look at these stories and break down whether or not we're dealing with a myth. There is no voter fraud, and we'll start by looking at an actual breaking story where a dude admitted to cheating for the Democrats. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There are several ways you can give, but the best thing you can do is share this video. People are going to tell you voter fraud isn't real. Well, we've got this one instance, and this story is very, very serious. And they're going to tell me that I'm biased, and maybe I am, but this is the story that's popping up, okay? Maybe I missed some of these other big stories. This is the one I have. A judge was actually taking bribes to prop up Democrats. Let's read the story. From the Philadelphia Inquirer. They say a former judge of elections and Democratic committee person from South Philadelphia has pleaded guilty to accepting $2,500 in bribes to inflate the vote totals for 3 Democratic candidates for common pleas court judge in 2015, and also accepted money to add votes for other candidates, U.S. Attorney William M. McSwain announced Thursday. Dominic J. DeMuro, 73, pleaded guilty to conspiracy to deprive Philadelphia voters of their civil rights by fraudulently stuffing the ballot boxes for the judicial candidates and for other candidates seeking office in the 2014 and 2016 primary elections. And he admitted violating the Travel Act, which forbids the use of a cell phone to promote illegal activity, McSwain's office said. DeMuro, who could not be reached for comment, was paid between $300 and $5,000 for each election, the office said. Our election system relies on the honesty and the integrity of its election officials. If they are corrupt, the system is corrupt, which creates opportunities for election fraud and for the counting of fake votes, McSwain said in a video recorded statement sent to news outlets. DeMuro fraudulently stuffed the ballot box by literally standing in a voting booth and voting over and over as fast as he could, while he thought the coast was clear. This is utterly reprehensible conduct. The charges announced today do not erase what he did, but they do ensure that he is held to account for those actions, McSwain added. He did not name the candidate and did not say if they won their elections. Well, I think they absolutely should. I mean, these elections have to be void now, right? You mean to tell me there could be people in public office who didn't actually get elected? I think it's pretty important they reveal who these individuals were and whether or not the election was swung by this judge stuffing the ballot in exchange for bribes from political consultants. It really is that easy, isn't it? When the media tells you fraud doesn't exist, I'd imagine that would raise some eyebrows, and you have to question why they would say this. Voter fraud does exist. It's why we have security at all. Why would you want to relax security? We're better safe than sorry, right? I mean, look, we locked down across the country over an abundance of precaution. And you know what? Many of these nationwide field hospitals weren't used. So maybe we did the right thing being overly cautious, even though we didn't need it. Perhaps it's important to have election security, especially if they're dealing with years and years of them claiming that Russia was interfering with our elections. Now, I'm not saying what I think that security should be, but certainly we can all accept this is a problem, right? Politics aside. DeMuro admitted that a political consultant whose name prosecutors did not reveal paid him to add votes for Democratic candidates running for the bench and other federal, state, and local offices, prosecutors said. We're not even talking about local office at this point. Now we're talking about federal elections. Is this guy going to face federal law enforcement? And who is this consultant who paid for it? Shouldn't they also be getting arrested, charged, or indicted? The consultant, who is a former elected official, took fees from the candidates and used part of the money to pay DeMuro, a judge of elections in the 36th Division of the 39th Ward, they said. Sounds to me like these candidates were actually involved, paying fees to a guy who then used that money to bribe a judge to stuff the ballots. In May 2014, DeMuro inflated vote totals by adding 27 fraudulent ballots in the primary election, 40 votes in May 2015 and 46 in 2016, according to court documents outlining the scheme and the charges against him. While those numbers may seem small, prosecutors said, they made up a significant percentage of the total votes cast at the polling place. In 2014, 118 total ballots were reported there, which means that DeMuro's fraudulent votes accounted for over 22% of the total voting in that division in 2014. In 2015, his fraud accounted for over 15% of votes cast in the division. In 2016, it accounted for 17%. Al Schmidt, vice chairman of the Office of Philadelphia City Commissioners, which runs elections, said his office found that DeMuro's 36th division had a history of more votes being cast on machines than the number of voters who signed poll books. His and his office referred the division's troubling vote numbers from 2014 and 15 to the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office. It was pretty flagrant, and it was repeated again and again. It was a source of frustration for me because it kept occurring again and again. Of the city's 1,703 voting divisions, Schmidt said the commissioner's office flagged voting irregularities in about 6 divisions in each election and refers them to law enforcement. We take election integrity seriously. That's why we've been referring these cases since I first came into office in 2012. DeMuro, who pleaded guilty in March in a sealed proceeding before U.S. District Judge Paul S. Diamond, faces up to 15 years in federal prison when sentenced June 30th. So this does sound like these are federal charges. His lawyer, Janine Vinci, declined to comment Thursday. In a statement, FBI Special Agent Michael J. Driscoll denounced DeMuro's actions. Dominic DeMuro put a thumb on the scale for certain candidates in exchange for bribes. As public trust in the electoral process is vital, the FBI's message today is clear. Election interference of any kind by hostile foreign actors or dishonest local officials won't be tolerated. The investigation is ongoing, and those with information on election fraud are asked to contact the FBI. Now, this is scary. This guy was swinging the vote for federal elections. Now, you got to understand, we have found evidence of one person doing one thing in a small election with about 1,700 votes. In some votes, only 118 votes cast. He was absolutely putting weight on the scales, which says to me it may have actually swung the vote. However, what you got to realize is that there are a bunch of different districts. The districts all vote, and then that trickles up. Think about how that would work in a federal election. You would need guys like him, people like him, in many different districts to swing an election. But there are key places where this is possible. You might find a county with only a few hundred people. You only need a couple dozen fake votes, and that county turns a certain color, and then that provides, delegates or whatever, depending on the kind of primary they're doing, the kind of election they're doing, be it a primary or federal election. Regardless of how severe or how much this actually swayed the elections, we got to take this stuff seriously. It looks like the FBI does. Now, recently, Donald Trump, here's what the New York Times reported, Donald Trump steps up attacks on mail voting, making false claims about fraud. President Trump initially said he might withhold federal funding for Michigan and Nevada if the states move forward in expanding vote by mail, though he later backed off the threat. Trump is taking this very, very seriously. But there's something interesting I want to talk about before I show you actual questionable instances. One of the concerns I see for Republicans is that mail-in voting is likely to increase youth turnout, in my opinion. Actually, that was my opinion until it was proven false, at least so far. What I was thinking was, while voter fraud is a very serious issue we need to pay attention to, one of the things that will negatively impact Republicans is that vote by mail will increase the amount of apathetic voters. So you've got young people who don't care to vote. They get a ballot in the mail and they say, sure, fine, whatever. They fill it out and just put it back in the mailbox. This is a huge advantage for Democrats, which is why it makes sense, in my opinion, they would want to change the rules. Right now, you have people who want to vote voting. People who don't want to vote don't vote. How do you get people who don't want to vote to vote? Put the ballot right in their face. But then we saw California's 25th district, and it was mostly mail-in vote, and the Republicans absolutely crushed. Turns out young people still don't vote, even if you give them the ballot, which is kind of hilarious. Which leaves us now with the more serious question. Well, I was absolutely wrong on this. The question now comes up of voter fraud, and we actually have what appears to be mail-in voter fraud popping up. The next thing I want to show you, NorthJersey.com. New Jersey primary election will be held mostly by mail, Governor Murphy says, May 15th, 2020. New Jersey will conduct its July presidential primary election using primary mail-in ballots, Governor Phil Murphy announced Friday. The South Jersey area is part of the Philadelphia metro where this judge lived. So you've got problems here, man. If they're going to do a primary, I mean, I'm not sure if it really matters they're doing a Democratic primary because Joe Biden is supposed to be the nominee. But we'll see what happens at the convention if they actually choose Joe Biden. There's still the potential that the vote can be swung, and there's a potential of corruption in the Philadelphia area, which does include parts of South Jersey. I have to wonder then if this is the right move. Well, now we can see evidence that it may in fact be the wrong move. Corruption allegations keep growing in Patterson vote by mail election. This story is actually predates the statement by the governor, which I find interesting. There are actual concerns about voter fraud, and the governor just says, yeah, we're going to go with it anyway. Check out this story from NBC4 New York. One woman said there are 8 relatives and immediate neighbors she knows of listed as having voted, but who insist they never even received ballots, including one relative who says she has been in Florida for weeks. Numerous residents are now complaining that they never received or sent in vote by mail ballots, even though Passaic County Board of Elections records show a ballot in their name was mailed in. Ramona Javier made the exact complaint from her front stoop along Chestnut Street. We did not receive vote-by-mail ballots, and thus we did not vote, she said in Spanish. When she was shown an official list of some of the people who voted on her block, and that her name was on that list, Javier said, "This is corruption. This is fraud." Let me stop you right there, everybody. Let me stop you right there. What was that, Chris Wallace? The Hill reports Chris Wallace debunks Trump. No record of massive or serious voter fraud from mail-in voting. Interesting. Well, I'd like you to talk to this woman, Ramona Javier, and ask her if she has seen evidence of voter fraud with vote by mail. Looks like it is. Now you can argue Chris Wallace said no serious or widespread, but that still doesn't take into account you're minimizing complaints of fraud, and you're getting very specific when you don't need to. If someone says there's a threat of voter fraud with mail-in ballots, well, then we look into it. And if someone lost their vote, someone didn't get to vote, I think that person has a right to challenge this, and that means there is fraud and it matters. If one vote is stolen, that's the rights of one person, their right to vote. You take that away from them. We can't stand for that. Take a look at the story. Javier said that there are 8 relatives and immediate neighbors she knows of listed as having voted, but who insist they never even received ballots, including one relative who she says has been in Florida for weeks. The local councilman, Louis Velez, said he knows of a dozen additional cases just like these across his ward. Where is the democracy in this? Where is the fair process? This is North Jersey. I mean, this is mostly a blue area. This is Democrat. Questions of corruption continue to grow about the vote-by-mail elections across Paterson, New Jersey's 3rd largest city. Videos are surfacing online of a single voter carrying numerous ballots. Postal workers were seen leaving some ballots sitting out in building lobbies, and hundreds of filled out ballots were found by postal workers in single mailboxes in Paterson, suggesting a possible vote bundling operation, which election experts say is a crime. In one case, officials said more than 300 Paterson city ballots were found in a single mailbox in an entirely different town, Haledon. That's got to raise some questions about voter fraud, right? This is the problem with mail-in voting. It's not look, we can stop before we get to accusations of crimes and just say we can't prove it. So I'll tell you the Democrats, to the Democrats who are arguing for mail-in voting, let me just tell you, you realize that Republicans can raise red flags and undermine the legitimacy of the vote if it is legit, right? Think about it this way. Let's say all these votes are real and they're all done properly. Well, now people are noticing too many ballots showed up in one place, and that gives Republicans the opportunity to challenge it. You wouldn't want that, would you? Well, then we shouldn't give them the opportunity. Now, Republicans, you can easily see there's potential for fraud here, because all of these votes are popping up in one place in a different town. It shouldn't make sense. I think there's a good reason for both sides to say this presents serious problems. Now, they argue Donald Trump voted absentee, and therefore vote by mail must be safe, even though, but Donald Trump's a hypocrite, they say. I'm sorry, listen. Special circumstances for absentee ballots, I think, is fine. It makes sense. But we still do have a problem with voter fraud. Just because voted with it doesn't mean it's wrong. Maybe we need much more serious security. The problem arises with widespread mail-in voting when everyone is doing it. Then you can't track where the ballots are coming or going from. If a mail person is just going to come and pick them up and grab one ballot at a time, it's very easy for one corrupt individual to offer a stack of cash to some low-level postal worker, and they say, just put this in your truck. Not only that, someone could just walk in and drop them off at a post office and say, here are the ballots, and they don't even know where they came from. Let's read a little bit more. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy did not address the specific problems boiling for days in Paterson during his coronavirus news briefing Wednesday. But when asked about possible corruption issues with the vote-by-mail elections across the state, Murphy said, it is too early to give you a full answer. Yet 2 days later, he said, New Jersey primary election will be held by mail. Even though you are getting questions about the fraud in your state, people are upset. They're calling it outright corruption. Feel bad. These big wigs, this governor, he's not going to do anything for you. And that's why I'm upset living here. But don't worry, Murphy. Don't worry. I'm going to leave, okay? I won't get in your way. I won't get in your hair. I'm just going to leave, and you can have your state and do what you want. I do feel bad. Maybe I should. Maybe I should stay. Then I can actually vote and vote people like this out. I don't want to deal with it. I'm sorry. This state has too many problems. For those that aren't familiar, I live in the South Jersey area. Election officials have set aside more than 800 ballots so far amid corruption concerns in Paterson. One candidate, Ramon Joaquin, said the Board of Elections was not being transparent about how officials were deciding to eliminate votes. The 800 votes should be counted, or the names of the people whose votes were suppressed should be released. And there is another point for why Democrats should be opposing this. Think about what happens if you have a Republican district. This should be a bipartisan effort. We can't allow this. We need election security. You get some guy with Republican sympathies, and he can say, we're going to remove this ballot because it's questionable. And there you go. Now the vote can swing in the other direction. Now, I'm just playing devil's advocate. The reality is a Democrat or Republican could both be doing this. That judge happened to have been favoring Democrats, but who knows? Seems like he just wanted the money. Someone could have paid him off, and he could have just flipped it for the Republicans, I guess. But we can't have elections by the highest bidder. Now, what's happening here? Let me read a little bit more, actually. This is important. Paterson Mayor Andre Saya has voiced concern ballot stealing operations may have been underway in some wards, and he said so-called ballot stuffing appeared to be a big problem. The mayor called on law enforcement authorities to investigate. Also calling for a criminal investigation was council candidate Frank Filippelli. He said he was also aware of voting problems he believed were criminal across the city. State Attorney General Gurbir Grewal has from WNBC for an interview to answer questions about voting problems in Paterson or to explain what his office is doing about the complaints. In a press conference last year at Paterson City Hall, Grewal acknowledged his office was off to a slow start in investigating.
I don't go down that slow camp. I don't go to that slow camp.
I don't want to live here.
That's a slow camp.
There should be no reason that there's.
Are you on public have no more? No, I don't go down the slow camp. I don't go down the slow camp. I'm with the fast camp. I'm with the fast camp. I'm with the fast camp. Right here at my house.
How can we spend 4 or 5 years complaining about interference?
We down here on the ave, man. Low here, out a little bit. Well, come get me. Come get me, bitch. I'm about to send Dro to come get you now. Man, Dro ain't with you. Dro ain't with you. Put his bitch ass on the phone. We only stop you, man. Little head crab, bitch. Man, nope. You had the horseshoe, right? Yeah. Yeah, bitch, it's packed down there. It's your birthday. Man, I don't give a fuck. What the fuck? I'm supposed to give a fuck about that shit? I'm supposed to really give a fuck about that shit? Yo, Dro, come get me.
You can take a look at what happened in Paterson. If
Huh?
people are saying their votes were cast, and they want to
get dressed, bitch. Yeah, bitch, I am dressed. Bitch, I ain't gotta wink my ass. I ain't gotta wink my ass like he do. Bitch, that bitch been a bitch. That bitch been a bitch. You been a bitch, Dro.
We do have another story in Nevada. Nevada's vote by mail primary stirs fraud concerns. You must be drunk, bitch. Something stinks here.
I know Dro love me. 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 I just gotta fuck with him. I just gotta fuck with him.
He said he gonna pull up and see what all that gangster shit you talking about.
Bitch, hold on. As a matter of fact, I got the pitchfork on my gun. I think I gotta remove it. All right.
They're the ones who actually bring up what it does. Consider what I've shown you already with 3 different instances of potential mail-in voter fraud, and one story in South Philly of overt federal, state.
Because the crowd wanted to move. Moses moved when you told them, today you will voice and not the crowd. I pray that we follow the cloud